Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick warning before we begin. This story is all about an abusive relationship and how OP gets out of it. So if that may be a topic that is sensitive for you, you might want to skip it. Now, let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Newly Enlightened Lady. I, 28 female, think it's time to break up with my boyfriend, 37 male of 4 years, but am I in the wrong? We met 4 years ago at work. I was on and off again with my ex-fiancé and he knew that. However, while we weren't exclusive, he put rules on what I couldn't do when I went home and would likely see my ex-fiancé. Not rules like no screwing, rules like not going to eat lunch alone. Now, that could be justified, except for the fact that I found out he was still living with his wife at this time. We always stayed at my place because it was in a different town than work and people from work didn't see us. When I found that out, it all made sense, but that wasn't until later when they ended it. At work, before anything to make him angry happened, he would get irrationally jealous if another male manager came into my office. I have to deal with other managers. We have to work together for all of us to be successful at our jobs. If I wasn't responding to his mails quickly, he would call. If I saw it was him and didn't answer because I was having an important conversation, he would come up to my office. When he saw it was another guy in there, I learned I could spend 3 days getting insulted by him because I was doing my job. I begged for this to stop, but it never did. I did end up talking to my ex on the phone. He was very close with my family, but I was 12 hours away. When he found this out, he started monitoring my phone. He made me put a password on that he could remember, and when I got home from work every night, I could expect him to take it from me and go through it. I prayed that none of my friends would call or text while he had my phone because he hated my relationships with all of them without ever meeting one. He made it uncomfortable to talk to my family around him, but he would never give me space. So eventually, I started going months without talking to them. I'm not perfect, but I remember all the times I felt so low. I cried with him right beside me and he didn't flinch. He would tell me he couldn't trust my tears. He would break up with me only to be back at my house the next night. He would tell me I did all of this by talking to my ex those few times, but at this point I was no longer talking to anyone back home, including my ex or family. I was so alone but so scared to piss him off and send him into a tirade. I finally found a place to transfer to. I thought it would be easy to get rid of him once I moved 8 hours away. I was wrong. He had some sort of grip on me and I had started blaming myself. At one point, I had literally covered mirrors on my house or put them on the floor to check my clothes, but I didn't want to look at myself. I remember one time I went home for lunch, but I didn't tell him the minute I left, so it caused a fight. He screamed at me that I didn't care about him because I always did that crap, forgot to tell him what I was doing, and again said that it wasn't his fault. He would trust me if he had never seen my ex's name on my phone. I was bawling and finally told him I couldn't handle it anymore, that I was scared of how I was feeling and that I had never felt so worthless in my life. He told me to quit crying, fix my makeup before I went back to work, and we weren't breaking up. But he did break up with me, many times. One time he did it and then called me at midnight crying, asking why I let him break up with me. Finally, I broke up with him. I couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't an angry breakup, but it was one where I said, this isn't healthy. 3 hours later, he was in the hospital with a heart attack. I'm an idiot. I feel like it was my fault, so I took him back, again. Now, before the heart attack, something that I haven't explained very well is how he told me what I could and couldn't do. To this day, I can't tan, I can't go to the gym, I can't go out to eat with a married female friend and have a glass of wine, I can't go to lunch with people from work, I can't go to the park for a run without him giving me the silent treatment or being short with me to send me on a guilt trip. He allows me to run around my house. I live on a gravel road. It has effed up my knee. I can't get a haircut without asking him. If I get my nails done, he wants to know why, and just because I wanted them done is not good enough for him. Every time I make a new friend, even though he doesn't know them at all, he starts insulting them when I bring them up so that I feel guilty for having one. Then he gets angry when I want to go hang out with them. The most recent is a married mom of 3. We got our hair cut together and he was angry that we went and ate and had some wine. He does not allow it without an argument. Then he says he just still can't trust me after over 3 years since the phone call incident. And he's sorry, but he's trying. He can't help how he feels, he says. I have to respond to texts within 4 minutes or he asks where I went and what I was doing. I have to text or email him several times an hour while at work, and I have a demanding job as a department head, or I'm ignoring him. I have to go to sleep when he says goodnight, or I have to respond in 15 minutes to let him know I'm not asleep, because he got upset when he found out I was up for another hour after we said goodbye one time. I have to do basic tasks for him. I live 8 hours away, but I have called tire shops, Verizon, Walmart, etc. to ask certain things for him because he had questions and doesn't like to talk to people, so he wants me to do it for him. Now, I agree that you shouldn't do things your significant other doesn't want you to. There should be compromise given, but at what point is it controlling? And at what point can I say, you're not in love with me, you're in love with the person you've made me become? Before the heart attack, he was demanding and controlling. Now, he's whiny and needy and tells me how lonely he feels. But someone recently told me that this was just a new form of manipulation after I broke down and spilled about our relationship. He gave me a deadline to move back. I didn't. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. I have always been afraid he would have another heart attack if I ended it again, but here's the thing. Suddenly, after all this time, I've forgiven myself. I want to be happy. I want to be whole. I want to learn something new. I haven't hiked in 2 years because the last time I went, he got pissed that I couldn't text from the woods. I want to find someone who supports all of me, not what they want me to be. I want to be happy so bad it hurts. I daydream about being happy all the time. Well, OP, the good thing is that you know that you want out. You understand that you're in a controlling and manipulating relationship that is not healthy for you. However, you're somehow still under his thumb. Now, OP, I understand that in a situation like yours, it's easy to just tell you that you need to get out and break off and not worry about how he feels or anything like that. But I understand that it's more easily said than done. But the positive is, like I said, you know you want out. Now, this is where I get stumped in the sense that I can't give OP any other kind of advice because I believe that she needs professional help in order to build herself up and absolutely cut this person out of her life. The problem I see is that she is absolutely manipulated and controlled through guilt by this guy and that she is isolated from anybody that could actually help her. So now I ask you guys, what would you do in this situation where you're in a relationship that absolutely overwhelms you in every negative way possible, that you acknowledge it's toxic and unhealthy for you, but that you're still in it and yet you are unable to break free? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say about this. Black Falls says, I can't even understand this. Why are you with him? Because you think you'll be on the hook if he dies? No, get the F out. His life is not your problem. You mentioned you don't even think he's a nice person. Why are you staying with him? Seriously, what are you getting out of this relationship? Are there any benefits to staying with him other than the idea that he might die without you? Not your problem, OP. Not your problem. Leave him. You're only 28. You have so much ahead of you. Get rid of this dead weight and get into therapy. You need it. You have allowed this for so long. You need to build up self-esteem. Off Threes says, I don't use these words lightly or often. Your boyfriend is an abusive, controlling prick. There's no gently letting him down. You find a hiding place and you break up, no contact, and mentally prepare for a restraining order, which you might ultimately need. Typhoid Grievous says, the fact that he hasn't hit you yet doesn't mean he isn't abusive. This is fully and completely abuse. You don't deserve it, and nothing you've done or could do would ever justify this treatment of you. It's hard to see it when you're living it, I know, but now is the time to leave. You need to start making a plan and follow through with it regardless of how he reacts. As soon as you can, put a deposit down on a new apartment, preferably one with security. Give security a picture of your abuser and tell them that he is under no circumstances allowed in the building. Get a restraining order. Show the police your text messages, any voicemail messages he sent you, emails, etc., and describe your abuse. Show them what you've written here if you need to. Change your phone number, give it to your family, and ask them to check on you periodically. You need a support system. You're not alone. And last but not least, go completely no contact. Fall off of the earth in his eyes. Never speak to or interact with this man again. Tell any family or friends of yours that he has access to that they're not to tell him anything about you. Don't worry about coming off as dramatic or crazy. You aren't either. Your health, safety, and freedom are the most important things right now and always. Good luck, OP. Please take care. Well, the community certainly has their opinions regarding OP's boyfriend. Now, that last commenter is the one that, in my opinion, gave OP the best advice. So let's move on to the first of two updates to see what happened next. I haven't done it yet, but I have been talking to a therapist who is helping me. I wanted to show you something I wrote for her. I know most people would say, "You know better, leave now, it's easy." But what happens in these relationships is you really develop a bond. He does seem miserable when I'm doing simple things that make me happy. Running, golfing, even cleaning. So I'm afraid I won't be able to forgive myself for how he feels. Anyway, here's what I wrote. It may give you a better perspective on me. I think it's hard to look at a relationship that's lasted several years and just know it's right to throw it all away. Good or bad, it's come down to really just the two of us. For almost 3 years now, I haven't really focused on friends, have been a bit distant from family, and haven't made any real new experiences to speak of. But he's always been there, again, good or bad. Part of me thinks he does love me and really would be devastated when it ends. But part of me also knows I don't want to move there with him, and I don't want to marry him, and I don't want to have kids if I do stay with him, and then a part of me feels guilty for feeling that way. I've tried to think of what I will say when it's over, what I will say that will be honest and not send him into some angry tirade or a crying fit. I went golfing this past weekend and it was hard for him. I didn't text him while I was golfing and he was really upset by that. When I got home, I was cleaning and taking care of my dog, so I didn't text a lot, and he was still upset. I'm not doing it to hurt him, I'm doing it because I'm so tired of sitting on my couch waiting for the next text so I can respond. He can't handle that. He told me he wants me to message him more at work so he feels important again, but today I just couldn't. After work, I went for a run, came back home, took care of the dog, and cleaned up. He waited less than 20 minutes from me saying I was home to say, "Okay, I guess I'll go lie down. Night, love you." And then said maybe I was too busy for a boyfriend. I think maybe I'm just too busy for a boyfriend who wants me to operate as he does. And I think he's unhappy, but I'm enjoying going for my runs, which he hates, but I've been doing consistently for 2 weeks now, and golf was awesome. I think I'm really seeing that as I'm doing things that make me so happy, things I haven't done in years. He just can't handle that. It's not how he wants to have a relationship. So, I don't think there is a point anymore. However, I am scared to end it. I'm scared that I might really be responsible for someone else's emotional state. I'm scared that it will stress him to the point that he has another episode with his heart. I'm scared that maybe nobody will ever have strong feelings for me again. Ever. All of that is holding me back. That's for my therapist. Maybe I shouldn't be putting this out there, but all of this was a huge breakthrough for me. She believes this was textbook emotional and psychological abuse, and while I believe he's calmed because of his heart, he is still seeing manipulation in his actions. Well, we definitely got some really good insight into how OP is feeling and what she's doing lately and how the relationship or this guy is reacting. So now, let's move on to the final update to see how this story ends. I ended the relationship via phone. I wasn't planning on it happening that way, that day, or any time in particular really. The conversation just kinda went to it. I started off by telling him I had lied to him, and I was wrong about that. I told him that even though I was wrong for that, the things I had lied about were not things someone should have to hide in a relationship. I told him I lied about going to the tanning bed, going for runs, and even a few times going to eat with coworkers. I told him I had gone out to eat after a big audit that we were successful in and even had a margarita. I told him I lied because every time I asked to do those things, I was made to feel guilty. And while it didn't happen oftentimes, I needed to be around people instead of just sitting at home on my couch texting him every 4 minutes. He got irate. Before he could put a guilt trip on me, I went into the offensive and told him, I will never be happy living how you want me to live, and I can't pretend that I would be anymore. And you will never be happy if I live how I want to. We are too different, and I don't think we'll ever agree on these things. He asked why I stayed with him, and I answered honestly that I felt like I was responsible for his happiness, his health, and his well-being because of the things he had said to me. His response was to tell me to F off. He will never be someone's obligation. I told him that was it. We were done. After we hung up, he sent several texts. The first ones said to delete everything and never contact him again, and then he asked if I understand. Say okay, OP. Say it so I know you understand. So I said okay after a few of those. Then he said, you meant to do this, didn't you? This was your plan all along. Say yes. Answer me. He sent those a few times, rapid-fire texting, and I just sent back, stop. He then sent 18 texts and called 3 times in 7 minutes. The last 4 texts were answer over and over. I didn't. He called, texted, and emailed all day. He called my office phone and then hung up. He texted me and said, that was me. You sound very happy, not upset at all. It's been over 2 weeks. He continues to text and email. Some of his texts are asking for me back, some are telling me goodbye, some are begging for the last weekend together, where we will act like we are together and then part ways. He once told me, come see me this weekend, we'll pretend as if none of this happened, I'll tell you what the doctor said and we'll be okay. This was followed by a long goodbye text in which he explained the doctor gave him some grave news about his health, but this was goodbye. And he would not text me again. Then he emailed, I think you're gorgeous. Now he keeps begging me to talk to him, telling me he never would have done this to me and asking if I really hate him that much. I don't, but I'm so happy now. I'm so happy. And I feel selfish for being that happy, for not feeling restricted anymore, and for being the person I have wanted to be for so long. I'm saying yes to everything. Yes, I'll come to eat with your family I've never met over the holiday weekend. Yes, I'll go play golf with you even though I've never played. Yes, I'll go watch the horse races. Yes to all of it, and nobody is making me feel guilty. I've talked to my family more in the past few weeks than I have in months, and I'm planning a girls' weekend out with some college friends I haven't talked to in months. Not to mention the new acquaintances, who will all hopefully fit into the friend category soon. Smiley face. However, some habits are still hard to break. I was walking to my truck the other day and I realized halfway through unlocking my phone, I was going to send him a text saying, I'm out, like I used to. Sometimes I feel like telling him, I'm happy, we will never work, not after remembering what it's like to have freedom, but I don't. I'm not okay just yet, but I'm on my way and happy. Thank you all for helping me in my journey. Well, OP, even though you say you're not okay just yet, I'm gonna count this as a very happy update because you sound happy. You just need to continue doing what you're doing and you will be free. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and all the best in the future. Take care. Now let's keep writing that feeling and finish this video off with a mood booster. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Groot13. I'm not allowed to take Ubers unless it's to the main airport? Fine. This happened years ago in Toronto. There's a small island airport close to downtown and then the full-on Pearson International. Once every 2 weeks or so, I'd have to travel, so I'd usually book my flight through the island airport since it would be cheaper and my office was downtown, so it took literally 50 minutes to get to. And there's no real customs or anything. You can show up 30 minutes before your flight departure time and be good to go. If my flight was at 1 p.m., I'd leave the office at noon and make it with time to spare. One day I get my expense request denied for the Uber that took me to the airport because it was close enough to walk and as per company policy, taxi and Uber is only for Pearson. This was all over $12, which I was doing for months. Okay, fine. The next flight I booked in Pearson. The ticket was $900 instead of $400. I paid $70 in an Uber to get there instead of $12. And I had to leave work a full 3.5 hours before my flight to make it through check-in, security, etc. to get to my gate in time. Usually, I'd be on some sort of calls leading up to my flight, but here I couldn't do any work at all. Sorry team, I'm unavailable for the rest of the day because of company policy. Come back and I'm asked why my expense report was double the usual amount I'd put in. It's because I can't expend a $12 Uber to Billy Shop Airport and I'm not going to walk for 40 minutes in my suit and dress shoes in the middle of January in the snow. 2 months later, it's now cost them $2,000 plus over what I'd normally have spent. Some of the flights at the time were over $1,000 versus the $400 at the island airport. Finally, I get an email one day saying I can take whichever flights I deem best based on my judgment and that any amount under $700 is auto-approved at the island airport. Now I get to eat a nice meal and sometimes upgrade myself to premium seats and still fall within budget. Once again, logic proved to be a little bit difficult for people just enforcing some rules or company policy. Good for you, OP, and thank you for sharing. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.